This is True News Headlines. I'm Doc Burkhart.
And I'm Kerry Kinsey. It's Thursday, November 21st, 2019, and these are your uncensored news headlines. Breaking news out of Israel. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been indicted for bribery, fraud, and breach of trust related to 3 criminal cases investigated by police. He's the first PM to ever be charged with a crime while still in office. Matthew Laurentada has more.
The corruption allegations facing Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu have now resulted in indictments against him. The Attorney General made the announcement on Thursday, raising more uncertainty over who will ultimately lead a country whose politics were already in chaos. The Prime Minister is accused of wrongfully accepting $264,000 in gifts from business tycoons and giving favors in return for favorable media coverage. He could face up to 10 years in prison. He's under no legal obligation to resign at this point, and he's always denied any wrongdoing, but it comes as the country is already facing the prospect of its 3rd election in less than a year. Because Netanyahu wasn't able to form a coalition government, and then his main rival, Benny Gantz, also failed to do so. Israelis are already wary of political paralysis. Unsurprisingly, some are asking what's supposed to have changed by then.
State Prosecutor Shai Nitzan says the premier is now barred from holding any ministerial portfolios. Prime Minister Netanyahu was holding the health, welfare, and diaspora portfolios. He had recently handed off the defense and foreign affairs portfolios as well. The state prosecutor also announced that Israeli law prohibits the prime minister from forming a new government while under indictment.
And Doc, the prime minister is slamming the indictments. He calls them an attempted coup. He says he dedicated his life for the state. He wants an investigation of the state prosecutors involved in the case against him.
Well, earlier in the day, President Reuven Rivlin took the unprecedented step of handing the mandate to form a government to Knesset Speaker Yuli Edelstein. This move means that right now, every member of the legislative body may now attempt to form a coalition government if they can receive the support of a majority of the 120-member body.
And Gideon Sa'ar is now demanding a party leadership contest. He says he would succeed in forming a government where the premier has failed repeatedly. He has not yet weighed in on the prime minister's indictment. We'll have more on this developing story tonight on the Godcast with Rick Wiles.
Meanwhile, the House Democrats' efforts to remove President Trump from office have continued for a 6th day. The House Intelligence Committee heard testimony today from Dr. Fiona Hale, a former National Security Council official, who said she found the president's July 25th phone call with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky troubling. Today, she attempted to paint Republicans' concerns about Ukrainian interference in the 2016 election as fake news.
Based on questions and statements I have heard, some of you on this committee appear to believe that Russia and its security services did not conduct a campaign against our country, and that perhaps, somehow, for some reason, Ukraine did. This is a fictional narrative that has been perpetrated and propagated by the Russian security services themselves. The unfortunate truth is that Russia was the foreign power that systematically attacked our democratic institutions in 2016. This is the public conclusion of our intelligence agencies, confirmed in bipartisan congressional reports. It is beyond dispute, even if some of the underlying details must remain classified. The impact of the successful 2016 Russian campaign remains evident today. Our nation is being torn apart. Truth is questioned. Our highly professional and expert career foreign service is being undermined.
And last night, the House Intelligence Committee held another round of questions with a pair of witnesses, including Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs David Hale. Here's some of those highlights.
You're not aware of any connection between the pause in aid and an exchange for some kind of investigation being announced or done by Ukraine. Is that
Correct.
right?
Is it fair to say that in the Trump administration, U.S. aid is withheld from foreign countries for a number of factors?
Correct.
And you've testified in your prior testimony that it is normal to have delays on aid.
I may have said it that way, but it is certainly an occurrence. It does occur. What have we learned from the Democrats' impeachment inquiry? They promised the country a fair hearing. What have they delivered? The impeachment version of three-card Monte, the notorious short con card trick where the mark, in this case President Trump and the American public, stands no chance of winning. The Democrats promised the whistleblower's testimony. In fact, they told us that we need to speak with the whistleblower. And then we learned that the whistleblower coordinated with the Democratic staff before alerting the intelligence community's inspector general. To hide their con, the Democrats pound the table and gaslight the country, telling us that the whistleblower is entitled to an imaginary statutory right of anonymity. They accuse us of trying to out the whistleblower, knowing that they're the only ones who know who he is. This is not an impeachment inquiry, it's an impeachment inquisition. In the Middle Ages, the inquisitor was free to act on his own and bring suit against any person who was even vaguely the subject of the lowest rumor. And the accused was denied any right to confront their accusers. Incredibly, or maybe not so much, given the Democrats' track record, an Inquisition victim had more rights than the Democrats are giving the president. After all, Inquisition victims had the right to know their accuser's name. For those of you at home, it's time to change the channel, turn down the volume, or hide the kids, put them to bed. Now I yield to Mr. Schiff for Storytime Hour.
Well, the FBI wants to question the whistleblower believed to be CIA analyst Eric Ciaramella. Yahoo News reports the Bureau requested an interview with him last month.
Well, we appreciate you tuning in for True News Headlines today. For the latest in news and information from a Christian worldview, visit TrueNews.com. This is True News Headlines. We'll be right back.
How does God view those who teach that his son Jesus did not come to earth in the flesh? Listen to the Bible from 2 John 1. Many deceivers who do not acknowledge Jesus Christ as coming in the flesh have gone out into the world. Any such person is the deceiver and the Antichrist. Watch out that you do not lose what you have worked for, but that you may be rewarded fully. Anyone who runs ahead and does not continue in the teaching of Christ does not have God. Whoever continues in the teaching has both the Father and the Son. From 2 John 1. Listen to the Bible. It's great for the soul.
Well, welcome back to True News Headlines. Here are some more stories that we're looking at. Carrie?
Well, Doc, last night, the Democratic 2020 presidential candidates held their fifth debate. Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard accused her party of losing its connection to the American people. And the rest of her opponents went on a mad dash to the left. Here's some highlights.
That our Democratic Party, unfortunately, is not the party that is of, by, and for the people.
Today, the 99% in America are on track to pay about 7.2% of their total wealth in taxes.
I'm not disagreeing with that.
The top 0.1% that I want to say pay 2 cents more, they'll pay 3.2% in America. I'm tired of freeloading billionaires.
What we have got to do tonight, and I will do as president, is to tell the fossil fuel industry that their short-term profits are not more important than the future of this planet. And by the way, the fossil fuel industry is probably criminally liable because they have lied and lied and lied when they had the evidence that their carbon products were destroying the planet. And maybe we should think about prosecuting them as well.
Thank you, Senator.
I believe that abortion rights are human rights. I believe that they are also economic rights. And protecting the right of a woman to be able to make decisions about her own body is fundamentally what we do and what we stand for as a Democratic Party.
Yeah, abortion as an economic right. Listen very carefully what she said.
Sick stuff.
Former Vice President Joe Biden once again had a bad night on the debate stage. He stumbled over his words and even forgot the names of major world leaders. Check this out.
Thank you.
Well, look, the next president of the United States is going to have to do two things. Defeat Donald Trump. That's number one. And number two, is going to have to and be able to go into states like Georgia and North Carolina and other places and get a Senate majority. That's what I'll do. I'm putting pressure on China in order for them to make sure that it is a nuclear-free peninsula. And the way we do that is we make clear to China, which I have done personally with the president of China, and that is we're going to move up our defenses.
Another of the 2020 Democrats who had a bad night was Mayor Pete Buttigieg. After a lackluster debate performance panned by many, he found himself under attack. This for claims he made during the debate that he had broad African-American support in South Carolina.
Now, 3 prominent black community leaders in South Carolina say their support for his Douglas plan to revitalize inner cities has been conflated into endorsements for his candidacy. Now, this is coming at a critical time for Mayor Pete. He had just leapt to the lead in the polls in Iowa, which hosts its first in the nation caucuses in just 74 days. It's getting close there, Kerry.
You're right, Doc. Listen to this. Debka File reports Israel is now on war alert as it prepares for an Iranian response to IDF airstrikes against IRGC positions in Syria. Now, this report comes amid a massive air defense drill carried out by Iran that simulates war in the Persian Gulf. Iran has also said it dispatched 64 naval fleets to the Gulf of Aden in a massive military buildup in the region.
Well, each day on TrueNews.com, we receive prayer requests from viewers and listeners just like you. And we love to hear from you and join together with you for God to answer your prayers. And we pray over each of those requests on a regular basis. I'd like to share a praise report with you now. Dear Rick and team, I am a new supporter, but I've been watching for roughly a year. I rarely watch other Christian programming because of the things I've seen and because of what I've been informed by you and the team. I'm 78 years old. My late husband and I sat under Pastor John Osteen for over 12 years. So we were well grounded in who we are in Christ and the authority he gives us. We believe in what you're doing. Don't stop. Sincerely, Zelta.
Well, thank you, Zelta, for those kind words and for supporting our ministry. I lived in Houston, and many people there know that John Osteen was the pastor of Lakewood Church. He started it back in 1959 from an old feed store on the northeast side and did not preach prosperity gospel like his son. We're excited that the Lord has led you to True News and that you see us as a beacon of truth. John 8:12 says Jesus spoke to the people once more and said, I am the light of the world. If you follow me, you won't have to walk in darkness because you will have the light that leads to life.
Thank you, Kerry. Appreciate that good word today. Yep. Well, visit TrueNews.com and use the True News app on your smartphone to submit your own need for prayer. And be sure to visit TrueNews.com for more about our headlines.
Yeah, and do us a favor, please like and share this edition of True News Headlines on your social media channels. Also, please visit TrueNews.com to find out how you can support our news efforts.
Before we close today, I just want to remind you that Rick's new book is available on the website, final day for pre-order. So we encourage you to go to TrueNews.com for that. And also, if you are a supporter of this ministry, a listener of this ministry, and you've contacted us in the past, we'd like to encourage you to update your email address, if you would, with us. Just email us at info@truenews.com if you have moved anytime within the past year. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to update your address information. We recently sent out a newsletter and we received a number back, so we want to make sure that you have the latest information in your hands. Email us at info@truenews.com. Well, thanks for joining us for True News Headlines. Stay tuned for our True News Godcast coming up later this evening. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is now facing several counts of bribery, fraud, and breach of trust. What does this mean for the future for him and Israel's search for leadership? We'll be talking about this and more later on the Godcast, and Rick is back, so he'll have plenty to say. On behalf of Kerry Kinsey and the entire True News team, I'm Doc Burkhart for True News Headlines. God bless you.
God bless you.